Before we bring you the hot lap itself, we caught up with Jensen Lunn earlier, who took us through the all-important features of the steering wheel controls.
So Jensen, you're back for another season in the Top Cats racing with Hex.com Lamborghini. Complex piece of kit. Just talk us through the steering wheel controls that you have to deal with when you're out there.
Okay, well this is the Lamborghini Hurricane steering wheel. We've got lots of different controls on here. We can adjust the ABS, we can adjust the traction control, and then obviously we've got multiple buttons here for radio, flashing the headlights. We've got neutral, reverse. We've also got a page button which we can scroll through the dashboard as well with different parameters on the car. Especially if we get a fault, we can see what the fault is, and is it a race finishing fault or can we drive with it? So we can scroll through there. Obviously we've got pit limiter, which we have to activate based on the speed limit for the pit lane. A little bit complicated because you have to be below the speed, so it creates a ceiling. So you have to then below the speed, press the pit limiter and then accelerate up to, I think it's 60 kph this weekend. We've also got the wiper button and we've got reverse as well. Now that's mainly if you get an incident on track, it stops you selecting reverse because obviously we've got paddle shift. And it stops you going from first down into reverse, so you have to press that button to override that. Paddle shift, 6-speed, which is left is down, right is up. It's all very simple that way, but obviously when you're that way it then becomes right up and left down, so it's yeah, but this is the standard Hurricane Lamborghini steering wheel, but yeah, it's good.
I noticed the two dials in the centre, they rotate, so clearly that's for the multiple settings you'll have for both ABS and traction?
Yeah, with the ABS we've got 1 to 7, which we use for the dry. We've got 7 to 14, which we use for the wet, so we get a lot more. And for the traction control we've got 1 to 8 for the dry and then 8 to 16 for the wet. So it's a great driver aid, but the more you bring the aids in, the slower your lap times. So if you're struggling with the car, if your tyres have gone off, or if it's a damp day unlike today, you can use these aids a lot, but ideally the fastest lap will be with the aids turned down as far as possible. So it's a good tool to use to get you out of trouble, basically, yeah.
That's just the buttons on the steering wheel. We've got even more buttons when we go inside the cockpit as well, so there's lots to do when you're a driver.
There is a lot to do. It's all of these cars now, there's so much technology involved. This is what makes the lap times what they are today, but you need to work with it. You can't fight these machines. You need to work with them. You need to understand what all the software does, all the programs do, and then ultimately the time comes. That's where the time is, and that's why every generation of car that comes through is just getting quicker and quicker and quicker, as with the GT3s every season.
So that tells you a little bit about the controls on the steering wheel. So now let's go on board for a lap around the Snetterton 300 circuit with Warren Gilbert.
Okay, so on board now on the centre straight, coming up to turn 1. There's the other Hex.com car just to the front. Round Ritchie's 3rd gear, looking for the apex there, and we want to run out nice and wide now. 4th gear, 5th gear, and then we're coming into a heavy braking zone now, round Wilson. Down to 2nd gear here. Careful on the power on the exit because it does oversteer. 3rd gear and then 4th gear. Trying to set up for the next left-hander. We've got to be careful with the other Hex.com car. And then we've got a straight here, so we need to get on the power as soon as we can. And then let car drift all the way out. And then we're going to be heading on down this long straight. So it's 4th gear now, 5th gear. I think on a good day we would actually snatch 6th gear now. Through Agostini, down into 2nd. Try and keep the car in as wide as we can. Take some curb. Past the Marshall post 9. Now we're heading up to Hamilton, which will be 4th gear. Bleed the power on, run wide. A little snatch of 5th gear before we go through Oggies. Now this is 2nd gear, sometimes 1st gear. Again, this can really catch you out on the 8 on the exit. 2nd gear, 3rd gear, hold 3rd, little flame out. Try and hold 3rd. You've got to be very precise here. And then we down onto the Bentley straight. So now it's 4th gear, 5th gear, and 6th gear. Slowly bring the car the right hand side. You're looking for your braking point under the bridge. This is going to be a heavy braking zone for the car. 4th gear, 3rd gear midpoint, and then down to 2nd. Take the curb but watch the sausage. 3rd on exit, lots of curb. 4th gear, just a lift through here, through the bomb hole, and now we're into Corran, which is where a lot of the time is made. So we tend to hold 4th or we're early in 5th. Try and keep the car balanced, but we've got to get the car straight for the braking zone now. And then this is a heavy brake. 3rd gear, 2nd gear, and then onto the power as soon as possible. Really relying on the traction control here. 3rd gear, 4th gear, looking for the line, hug the wall because we've got a crosswind today. 5th gear, and up towards the end of the lap.